This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Good morning, friends. In this Business Intelligence Master Program, this is our fifth session. In this session, we will talk about integration runtime introduction. Okay. So integration runtime, we will discuss in detail because it is very, very important before you get started with your pipelines and linked service, everything. So if you want to start with your lab, this is one of the very, very important service. So we discussed about main concepts are that is nothing but important concepts in Azure Data Factory. That session is very, very important. Second session is this integration runtime session is very, very important if you want to understand any pipeline. Okay, so that's why I have taken a separate session on this integration runtime. So we will understand today what is integration runtime, what are the different types of integration runtimes we have. So this is one of the very frequently asked interview question as well. So if you understood this in integration runtime in detail, at least you can able to answer one or two questions for sure. Okay, so you can ask the friends, you can ask the people who are attending the interview, so they might have faced this interview question very frequently. Okay, next, so what are the different types of integration runtimes we will see. Then we will see what is Azure IR, this is one of the type. Then we will see self-hosted IR, this is another type of IR. What is IR? Integration runtime, that is a short name called IR. Next we will see what is SSIS IR. Okay, this is the third type of IR. Next we will understand which integration runtime should I use. So you have three integration runtimes. So which integration runtime you need to use, we are going to understand. Then we will understand integration runtime location, where exactly this integration runtime will locate, where it will be there. Okay, next, what is auto resolve integration runtime? Okay, what is the name? It suggests auto resolve integration runtime. So we will discuss in detail about this auto resolve integration runtime. So this is very, very powerful integration runtime. Okay, we will discuss about that. Next we will understand determining which IR to use. So we are going to understand again here which IR to use. Okay, next, overview diagram. So I will show you one overview diagram. There you will see in which year IR you need to use in which place, which IR you should not use in which place. So all that information you will have. Okay, so these are the concepts that we are going to cover in today's session. Let's start with what is integration runtime. I already covered what is integration runtime, very, very short definition, but in today's session we will completely in detail we will see. So the integration runtime is the compute infrastructure used by Azure Data Factory to provide the data integration capabilities across different network environments. So first, if you remember in our previous session, we have seen if you want to shift from one house to another house, we will, who is going to do all the work? Delivery boy is going to do. Who is going to manage everything? Delivery manager will manage everything. Now, if you compare same example with your Azure Data Factory, whenever you are copying data from one location to another location or one storage to another storage, what happens is Azure Integration Runtime IR is going to act as your delivery boy, meaning everything will be done by your integration runtime. But what is Data Factory here? Data Factory is a kind of a manager who will manage all these things. But who is going to copy data? Who is going to execute the code and all those things? Your integration runtime is going to do all those work for you. Okay, Data Factory is just a managed service. Okay, manager. Now you need to understand integration runtime is the compute infrastructure. What is compute? It's a calculated system. Okay, compute infrastructure who is using this particular service used by Azure Data Factory. See, who is going to use delivery boys? Delivery manager will hire multiple delivery people, and delivery manager will maintain all these delivery boys, right? Now Azure Data Factory also maintaining this integration runtimes. Okay, you can see is the compute infrastructure used by Azure Data Factory. So why Azure Data Factory is using this? To provide the data integration capabilities across different network environments. What is the data integration capabilities across different network environments? So network means you can say it may be cloud, it may be on-premise. Okay, if it is a private network means it is a on-premise. We discussed about what is on-premise, what is cloud. Okay, so if you are moving data from on-premise is nothing but a private network. If you're moving into the cloud, cloud is nothing but a public network. So when you want to move data from private network to the public network or public network to the private network, if you want to move anywhere within the private network from one storage to another storage, or within the cloud from one storage to another storage, if you want to move the data, we need to use the integration runtime. This integration runtime can provide the data integration capabilities across different network environments. What are those different network environments? It may be on-premise cloud or on-premise to on-premise, cloud to cloud. It can be any network. Next, an integration runtime specifies what kind of hardware is used to execute activities. So we need a physical hardware. Okay, so integration runtime specifies what kind of hardware is used to execute activities. Activities, we know, copy activity, we discussed about few activities, right? A delete activity, or if you want to uh, delete activity, copy activity, you can say. If you want to call Databricks notebook activity, we're going to use some integration runtime. So integration runtime specifies what kind of hardware is used to execute activities, where this hardware is physically located. Okay, so what kind of hardware you are going to use, this hardware, where it is located. Okay, so depends on what type of IR you are selecting, these IRs will be located in a different places. We are going to understand those things in our upcoming slides, but you need to understand what. So integration runtime specifies what kind of hardware you are using, where this hardware is physically located, and who owns and maintains the hardware, who is going to it belongs to whom, and who is going to maintain. Maintenance means, you can say, with respect to security, patching, or any other things, right? So all those things, who is going to maintain? So depends on integration runtime. So some integration runtimes we need to maintain, some integration runtimes will be maintained by cloud provider. So we will understand those things later. But this integration runtime specifies what kind of hardware we are using to execute activities, where this hardware is located, and who is maintaining this hardware. Okay, next, and which data store services the hardware can connect to. This hardware can connect to what data storages and what services. Services means any other service. I want to call a another service called maybe Databricks notebook service, or you want to call Logic App, some other services. Data stores means where you have a data. Okay, so if you want to connect to the data, if you want to call any other service, what type of hardware you are using, and where this hardware is located, and who is maintaining this hardware, we need to understand all these things. Ram Ratan, I can't hear you. So friends, are you able to hear me properly? I think few people are telling they are not able to hear. Can somebody respond?
Yeah, I am able to hear you, Malaya.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So I think only few people have. Okay, fine. Now you specify which integration runtime to use in each linked service. So where you are going to use this integration runtime, you are going to use integration runtime in a linked service. Okay, next, you see here, this is the place where you will see a integration runtime. In Azure Data Factory, if you open, you will have a manage tab. In manage tab, you can see integration runtimes. In integration runtime, if you want to create a new one, you have to click on this. If you want to see, there is a something called auto resolve integration runtime. It's nothing but this is the default integration runtime. It's a default integration runtime. You need to understand. But I will discuss more about why default integration runtime, what are the capabilities of this default integration runtime. We will discuss. This is very, very important. Okay, this default integration runtime has a lot of capabilities. We will discuss this. Okay, clear? Any doubts in this particular slide? Any questions, friends, here? Okay, integration runtime is nothing but a compute infrastructure which tells what kind of hardware to use, and where this hardware is located, and who is maintaining this hardware. Okay, by using this hardware, you can able to connect to the different data stores and services to fetch data, like to copy data, to do any activity. We need to use the integration runtime, but this integration type will depends on from where to where you are copying the data. Suppose if you're copying data from on-premise to cloud, you need to use a different integration runtime. If you want to copy data within the cloud, you need to use a different integration runtime. So we will discuss those things. But any questions? Can you confirm or chat in that list? Okay, fine. Let me move on to the next slides if no questions. So where we use IR in linked service, you see here, when you are creating a linked service, you can see connect via. So you are trying to connect to some service. Example, you are trying to connect to the database, or you are trying to connect to the data lake storage Gen 1, you are trying to connect to data lake storage Gen 2 or AWS S3, you can connect to the other cloud services. Example, AWS S3 storage, you can connect from the Azure Data Factory. So whatever you are doing, but you need to select the integration runtime. So you want to do all these actions via which integration runtime? You need to select here. You see, connect via integration runtime. What is that? Auto resolve integration runtime. It's nothing but a default integration runtime. But apart from default, we have a 3 different types of integration runtimes. We will discuss those things. Okay, clear? So here we are going to use the integration runtime. Remember, because tomorrow I'm going to copy data from blob to blob. When I am copying data from blob to blob, I will connect to the blob storage. When I am connecting to the blob storage, first thing that I need to do is I need to create a linked service. When I am creating linked service, I am going to use the integration runtime. Okay, but what type of integration runtime we can use, you need to tell me tomorrow, because I'm going to explain what type of integration runtime we need to use in which scenario. Okay, clear? Fine. Let's go here and see integration runtime activities. What all things these integration runtimes will do? So first thing is basically data flow. So we'll have something called data flow. What is data flow? Data flow is nothing but a code-free transformations. Without writing the code, you want to transform the data. Okay, you want to filter some data, you want to add extra columns to the existing data. So all these kind of transformations you want to do without writing the code. You just want to use the UI part. Okay, UI means drag and drops. Okay, so that is nothing but a data flow. By using data flow, we are going to implement the transformations with the help of UI part. We are not going to write a code. So in this case also, we are going to use the integration runtime. You need to understand. Okay, execute a data flow in managed Azure compute environment. So if you want to execute this particular data flow, we are going to use integration runtime. Next, data movement means, suppose I want to copy data, I want to move the data, right? Moving means copying the data. I am trying to copy data from on-premise to the cloud, or from the cloud to cloud, maybe between 2 different storages, or from storage to the database to the storage, something like that. So in this case also, you are going to use the integration runtime. Next, activity dispatch. So activity dispatch means, let's say you have written code in the Databricks notebook. You have written the code in the Databricks notebook. It's a separate service we have. If you want to do any transformation, we need to write the Spark code there. In Databricks, we need to write the Spark code. When you write that Spark code, you want to execute that Spark code by using Azure Data Factory. How you can do is, you need to send a request saying that execute. It's a dispatch. You are sending. Okay, activity dispatch means you are just sending a request to execute the notebook, but that code will execute on a separate compute service. We'll have a Spark cluster there, it will execute, but you need to trigger that. You need to make a request to start execution. Okay, for that also you are going to use the integration runtime to do the activity dispatch. Okay, example, to call Azure Databricks notebook, or to call Azure HD Insight code. Okay, Azure machine learning things, or Azure SQL database. Example, your stored procedure you want to execute. So in all these cases, these things will not execute on your integration runtime. These things will execute in their own compute services, but we need to start that execution. Hey, can you start the execution? If you tell, then that notebook will execute on the respective clusters which are available within those services. Example, in Azure Databricks, we'll have a separate cluster to execute our code. In Azure HD Insight, you will have a cluster to execute our code. Azure Machine Learning will have a separate cluster for executing machine learning things. And Azure SQL database will have a servers to execute your stored procedures. Okay, so likewise, but ADF will send a signal saying that it will send a trigger saying that can you execute this stored procedure, can you execute this notebook, can you execute this barcode, okay, something like that, dispatch. So in this case also we will use the integration runtime. Next, SSIS packages. Okay, SQL Server Integration Service. It's nothing but a SSIS means SQL Server Integration Service. So you have some SSIS packages. So if you don't know, don't worry much about those things. Just remember one thing: if we have any SSIS packages, okay. I know most of you don't know what is SSIS packages, okay. But whatever we are doing in ADF today, previously before ADF introduced or before ADF okay came into the picture, we have a service called SQL Server Integration Service. By using this, we used to do all these things, okay, data movements, okay, all the ETL processing, we used to do it by using SSIS. So you have some SSIS packages which will do all these things. Okay, now what we need to do is this same code I want to execute from ADF. That is also possible if you want to execute any SSIS packages. Okay, if you want to execute any SSIS packages, here also we need to use the integration runtime. Okay, these are the 4 cases where we are using the integration runtime. One is, see, 2 cases here we have a not two total, yeah, 2 cases we have a transformation. One is data flow, activity dispatch. So data flow is nothing but a transformation only. Here also we are doing, in activity dispatch also we are doing the transformation. What is the difference between these two? In data flow we are not writing code through the UI, just to drag and drop. Okay, when you apply for any application for PAN card you are applying, so it will give the form, you will just fill it, right? In the same way, you just have to you will get some kind of a forms, you just have to fill, okay, to which service you want to connect, something like that. It's a complete UI part. Data flow means activity dispatch, it's nothing but on Azure Databricks or Azure HD Insight. In all these cases you need to write the code. Okay, so in these 2 transformations, whether you are using activity dispatch or data flow, we need to use the integration runtime. Next, data movement. You are moving the data by using Azure Data Factory activities, then you need to use the integration runtime. You are not using the Azure Data Factory activities to copy data. Instead of that, you are using SSIS package to copy data. You need to use the integration runtime. So in all these 4 cases, you need to use the integration runtime. Okay, any questions here?
Sir, I'm Murli. What is Spark code and what is Spark cluster? What is meant by?
See, those things we are going to cover. Spark cluster. See, cluster is nothing but today also we are going to talk about that. Cluster is nothing but a group. Spark cluster is nothing but servers. You are going to group the multiple servers. Okay, group of servers is nothing but a cluster. Spark cluster means you have a group of servers which has Spark installed. Okay, example, you have a Python code. If I install Python on my laptop, so this is a Python, so I can say this server is having Python. In the same way, if I install Spark in my laptop, so Spark is installed in my laptop. Now I have a 4 system. In all those 4 systems, I install the Spark. Now, if I group all these 4 systems, I can say Spark cluster, because you are grouping the 4 servers. Okay, in all these 4 servers, Spark is installed. That is nothing but a Spark cluster. On this Spark cluster, you need to write the Spark code. Okay, it's a data. Suppose data processing engine. If you want to process your data with in-memory concept, you need to use this Spark. So we will discuss more about Spark. Don't worry. But just to give you some knowledge, I have explained what is Spark cluster. Okay, clear, Murli?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions, friends? Okay, if no questions, let me move on. Okay, different types of integration runtimes. See, Data Factory offers 3 types of integration runtime. So this is very frequently asked interview question, friends. What is integration runtime? What are the different types of integration runtime? This is a very frequently asked interview question. You can ask the people who are attending the interview. So many people are already attending the interview. Okay, so you can ask them if you have any doubt. Okay, Data Factory offers 3 types of integration runtime, and you should choose the type that best serve the data integration capabilities and network environment needs you are looking for. Okay, these 3 types. What are those? These 3 types. First one is we have a Azure integration runtime. Second one is self-hosted integration runtime. Third one is called Azure SSIS integration runtime. Okay, we already talked about what is integration runtime. Integration runtime is nothing but it's a compute infrastructure that is used by Azure Data Factory to move the data between different storages, to dispatch the activities, to execute our data flows, to execute our SSIS packages. But what are the different types of integration runtimes we have? These 3 are the different types of integration runtimes. So we will discuss which integration runtime we are going to use when. Okay. We talked about one more integration runtime, auto resolve integration runtime. Don't think that it's a separate type. Auto resolve integration runtime is nothing but a Azure type integration runtime. Okay, auto resolve integration runtime is nothing but a Azure type integration runtime, but it has the extra capabilities. Okay, apart from normal Azure integration runtime, auto resolve integration runtime has extra capabilities that I will discuss. Okay, clear? So remember, these are the 3: Azure, self-hosted. Self means self. We need to take care. Azure means Azure is going to take care. Microsoft is going to take care. Here you see Azure SSIS. Again, it's a Azure. Azure means Azure SSIS means it is also taken care by your Microsoft. Okay. So Azure means Microsoft is going to take care. Self means we are going to take care of this particular IR. And Azure SSIS means this particular IR also will be taken care by the Microsoft. Okay. In another interview question I recently faced is Azure integration runtime will be maintained by you or Microsoft. Can you answer me, friends? Anybody, whoever understood, can you tell me whether Azure integration runtime is maintained by we or Microsoft? Are we maintaining?
Microsoft.
Very good. So Microsoft is going to maintain. Next, who is maintaining self-hosted integration runtime? We need to maintain this self-hosted.
Yes.
Very good. Next, Azure integration runtime. Okay, Microsoft is going to take care. Okay, I will discuss in detail, but these are the 3 different types of integration runtimes we have. Okay, let's move on now. Azure integration runtime. First type is Azure integration runtime. Azure integration runtime use infrastructure and hardware managed by Microsoft. Hardware means, see, in all our laptops we will have a hardware and different CPUs and other things we will have, right? So if you consider all those things, you can say infrastructure and hardware. So we need, if you want to say this is one server, in a server, server is nothing but a compute infrastructure we are calling, right? That compute infrastructure is nothing but a one server is nothing but a one laptop or one computer, you can consider. Okay, with the easy terms, you can say now Azure integration runtime uses infrastructure hardware managed by Microsoft. So this particular integration runtime managed by Microsoft. Next, they take care of the installation. Who is going to do that installation? They will install, they will maintain. Okay, maintenance with respect to the power, security, everything they will take care. Next, patching. Patching means some example, some malware, some virus came, like it impact many systems last year also, right? So in those cases, what they will do is they will like install the some anti software, something like that, right? So such type of patchings. Okay, who is going to take care of all these things? All these things will be taken care. Patching and scaling, everything will be taken care by the Microsoft. While you pay for the time you use it, who is going to use and who is going to make a payment? You are going to use that and you are going to make a payment for the time that you have used. Example, if you use for 1 hour, you need to make a payment for 1 hour. If you have used for 2 hours, you need to make a payment for 2 hours. But who is going to maintain installation, maintenance, patching and scaling? Everything will be taken care by the Microsoft. What is scaling? Scaling is nothing but a, suppose if you want to increase the cap, you have 16 GB memory RAM. Okay, now you want to increase to some 64 GB. So such type of things automatically Microsoft will take care. Okay, depends on how much data you are trying to load. Okay, clear? So that scaling, installation, maintenance, patching, everything will be taken care by Microsoft, while you pay for the time you use it. If you use for 1 hour, you pay for that 1 hour. If you use for 24 hours, you just pay for 24 hours. That's all. Next. And Azure Integration Runtime can only access the data stores and services in public network. What is public network? It's nothing but in the cloud. Whatever data you have in the cloud, only those things our Azure Integration Runtime can able to access. If your data is available in private network, that is nothing but on-premise, your Azure Integration Runtime cannot able to access the data. Okay, this is also very, very important. Azure Integration Runtime can only access data stores and services in public network. Public network means in the cloud. If something is there in the cloud, then only you can able to access them. Okay, if something is there in on-premise, you cannot access those things. Next. Your Azure Data Factory will always have at least one Azure integration runtime called Auto Resolve Integration Runtime. As I said, this Azure integration runtime called Auto Resolve Integration Runtime will be there by default. I have shown you in my first slide itself. By default, we will have a Auto Resolve Integration Runtime. Okay, this is the default integration runtime, and the reason is set to auto resolve. So this is the key term you need to remember, because I will explain more about this. Region is set to auto resolve. Okay, so let me explain now, and if I explain again, you will have a better clarity. The region is set to auto resolve. What it means is, example, I am copying data from India to US. Okay, now this server should be there in US, because my target is US. If the person is there in US, if the server is there in US, data it can able to pull and load it into the US quickly. Instead of that, I'm trying to move data from India to US. My server is there somewhere in Australia. So what is the use? Server is somewhere and you are moving data from one place to one place, different regions you are moving the data. Your server is there in another region, you are moving data in a different regions, right? So that is not good. Example, in one copy activity, you are copying data from India to USA. In another copy activity, you are copying data from India to Canada. In another copy activity, you are copying data from India to UK. Now this auto resolve integration runtime, if you select, this server automatically change the location. When you are copying data from India to US, this server will be taken from the US data center. If you are copying data from India to Canada, this server will be taken from the Canada data center. If you are copying data from India to UK, this server will be taken from the Canada UK data center. Now you understood, right? Automatically it will resolve the region based on what? Based on your target, where you are moving the data. So if you don't have auto resolve integration runtime, if you have created your own integration runtime, what happens is you might have created your integration runtime in East US, maybe in US, and you are trying to copy data from India to Australia. So totally different. Your server is somewhere, and you are copying data from somewhere to somewhere. So it's completely, it will take more time basically. Okay, clear friends? Because if the server is in our location, it will be much more faster to retrieve the data. If the server is somewhere, first server needs to read the data from there. Meaning what happens is, if the server is in Australia and you are copying data from India to US, first server will read data into Australia. From Australia, it will send data to your US. So it is going to travel something like this. Okay, it will take more time if you send data something like that. That's why we have a integration runtime called auto resolve integration runtime. It's a default integration runtime. It can able to resolve the region automatically. Okay, next. Auto resolve means that Azure Data Factory decides the physical location. You see, Azure Data Factory decides the physical location of where to execute activities based on the source and sink or activity type. Okay, based on your source, from where you are taking the data, where you want to put the data, or otherwise in activity type based on the other activities. If the copy activity based on the sync location, it is going to decide. If it is a other activities like some execute pipeline activities, some other activities, so it is decided based on the activity type. Okay. Next, if you need to ensure that data does not leave a specific region for legal reasons, you can create new Azure integration runtime in specific regions. Okay, what it means is, example, you don't want to move data into other regions. So I want to, at any cost, I want to bring. So why we have this point, I will tell you. There is one more problem with this auto resolve integration runtime. Okay, example, you are trying to copy data from US to like India to Zimbabwe. Okay, let's imagine in Zimbabwe there is no data center. Now what happens is, in Zimbabwe, near to Zimbabwe, whatever data center is there, near to the data center, it will try to take the integration runtime and it will use that particular integration runtime. Now what happens is, your data is moving from India to Zimbabwe, but it is not directly moving from India to Zimbabwe. It is traveling through another integration runtime, because integration runtime is not available in our Zimbabwe. So maybe you have integration runtime in UK, something like that. Just I'm giving some example. Okay. Now your data will move to UK, from UK to Zimbabwe it will go. So now what you are doing is, unnecessarily you are like exposing your data to other regions. You are sending your data to UK or something like that. So there are some sensitive information that you don't want to send to the other regions. So in that case, what you need to do is, you need to tell which regions you believe, which data center you believe. In those data center, you create the integration runtime, Azure integration runtime, and use that integration runtime to copy. See, if you need to ensure that data does not leave a specific region for legal reasons, you can create new Azure integration runtime in specific regions. I'm giving you example again. I'm copying data from India to Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, I cannot create the integration runtime. Now, what happens is, if you use auto resolve integration runtime, by default, it will take the nearest data center from the, it will create the server from nearest data center to the Zimbabwe. But due to some legal action, I don't want to send data to that maybe UK. If you think Zimbabwe near is UK, just I'm not sure where exactly it is basically. Okay, so Zimbabwe near is UK. If you imagine, now what happens is, my data will go to UK, from UK to Zimbabwe it will go. But what your case is, I don't want to send my data to other regions like UK. Now what you need to do, whatever region you believe, whatever data center you believe, maybe you believe India data center, then you just create a Azure integration runtime in India. Use this particular integration runtime to copy data from India to Zimbabwe. Okay. Okay, that's all friends with respect to the Azure integration runtime. But any questions? So when you are explaining what is, yeah, tell me.
Can we access any data stores that in a different cloud? Let's say it's my data store is in Amazon or Google. So can
Yes,
we use the? Can we access that data stores? Okay.
yes. By using Azure integration runtime, we can able to do that. That is also public network, right? Yes, we can do that. So I will show you. We will also try to copy data from AWS S3 or AWS Redshift to the some storage in Azure. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So next, when you are so you will tell. So this the compute infrastructure that is nothing but a Azure integration runtime. Sorry, integration runtime is nothing but a compute infrastructure that we will provide to the Azure Data Factory. You need to tell. Then there are three types of integration runtime: Azure integration runtime, self-hosted integration runtime, and SSIS integration runtime. When it comes to the Azure integration runtime is nothing but all the infrastructure and hardware will be maintained by Microsoft. This Azure integration runtime we will use to move the data within the public network. Okay, and by default we will have a Azure integration runtime, that is auto resolve integration runtime. Region will be resolved automatically based on your activity type. You need to explain something like this as of here. Okay, let me move on to our next slide. So self-hosted integration runtime. So you see self-hosted integration runtime use infrastructure and hardware managed by you. That's why we need to install this self-hosted integration runtime on our mission, on your on-premise mission, or you can purchase this virtual mission. In that virtual mission, you can able to install the self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, next. You take care of all the installation, maintenance, patching, scaling, but you also pay for the time you use it through the Azure Data Factory. If you use this server, this integration runtime with your Azure Data Factory, how much time you are using, so that much time you need to make a payment for Microsoft. Okay, next. Self-hosted integration runtime can access resources in both public and private network. If you want to migrate data within the public, or if you want to migrate data from private network to public or within the private, in all these cases you can use the self-hosted integration runtime. But mostly we will use self-hosted integration runtime to move the data from private to public or public to private and private to private. Okay, but whenever you are moving data within public to public, we will go with Azure integration runtime. Okay, next. Self-hosted integration runtime works like a gateway. You install the integration runtime on a mission inside the private network, then it can communicate with the Azure Data Factory. So how you will integrate these two things, like how you will connect the self-hosted integration runtime and Azure Data Factory. We will have some key in Azure Data Factory. Take that key and register it with your self-hosted integration runtime. So if you provide that key, both will connect, like Azure Data Factory and your self-hosted integration runtime will connect. Okay, so we will see these things practically, don't worry. Now, okay, this is all about your self-hosted integration runtime. Here you need to have, let me highlight some points. So whenever you are explaining self-hosted integration runtime, first point that you need to tell is infrastructure and hardware managed by you, and installation, maintenance, patching, scaling, everything you need to do. And while you are paying to the Azure Data Factory, Microsoft, how much time you are using this self-hosted integration runtime in Azure Data Factory, that much time you need to make a payment to Microsoft. Next, self-hosted integration runtime we will use to migrate data from public to private or private to private and private to public. Okay, in all this case, only except public to public we will go with our Azure integration runtime. Okay, this point if you remember you can able to tell, otherwise you can leave it. Okay, next. SSIS integration runtime. So Azure SSIS integration runtimes are clusters of virtual missions. See, it's not a single mission. As of now, we are talking about single mission. Whether it's a Azure integration runtime, whether it's a self-hosted integration runtime, all those are a single missions. But SSIS integration runtime is nothing but a group of missions. Okay, see, are clusters of virtual mission. What is cluster? We just discussed a group of missions. Okay, running the SQL Server integration runtime engine. Okay, there are multiple virtual missions, group of virtual missions which are running your SSIS engine. Okay, who will manage this particular integration runtime? Managed by Microsoft. This particular integration runtimes will be maintained by Microsoft. SSIS integration runtime is nothing but a group of virtual machine. You need to understand first thing. Second thing is this group of missions will be managed by Microsoft. Next, they take care of all the installation, maintenance, patching, scaling while you pay for the time you use it. You are just going to make a payment for the time that you use it. Next, an Azure SSIS integration runtime is used for executing SSIS packages in Azure Data Factory. If you want to execute any SSIS packages, we need to use this particular SSIS integration runtime. Okay. Next, those SSIS packages can access resources in both public and private network. So you have a SSIS packages. These SSIS packages you are executing from the cloud. Cloud means by using SSIS integration on that. But these packages can access data which is there in cloud as well as the data which you have in your on-premise. Both it can able to do. Okay, so that's all about your SSIS integration runtime. But I told it's a cluster of virtual machine. Let me show you how it's a cluster of virtual machine. You see, when you are creating the SSIS integration runtime, you see node number. You need to tell node is nothing but one server. you need to increase the how many number of servers you need those many you need to keep on increasing. Next, node size, whether you want 1 core and this much memory, or 2 cores, 4 cores, how many cores. Core is nothing but a thread, right? So how many threads you want for executing. For parallel execution, if you want more threads, we will try to take. Okay, so server configuration, you need to select how many servers you need to tell, because it's nothing but a cluster of virtual machines. You see Azure SSIS, the type is Azure SSIS. Very good question, Avinash. So we will cover that. So which integration runtime we will use frequently or in industry? So that is completely depends. As I said, whenever you are migrating data from on-premise to the cloud, that is our first step, whatever you do, right? So most of our customers' data will be there in on-premise. We need to migrate data from on-premise to cloud. In this case, we will use the self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, then once the data is available in the cloud, for transforming this data, okay, maybe if you want to execute data flow, if you want to execute Databricks notebook, if you want to do anything, if you want to migrate data from one storage to the another storage, one storage to the data warehouse, that is nothing but Azure Synapse, you need to use the Azure Integration Runtime, because that is within the cloud. SSIS packages, this is rare because very few people are executing SSIS packages. Okay, SSIS integration runtime you are going to use to execute SSIS packages. Clear, Avinash? Okay. Okay, which integration runtime should I use? Okay, let me give you. See here, Azure Integration Runtime. Copy data between cloud store, meaning from within the cloud stores. Data lake store Gen 1 to Gen 2, or blob to data lake Gen 1, blob to data lake Gen 2, blob to data warehouse. So within the cloud, if you want to copy Azure Integration Runtime. Transform data between cloud stores. So you are copying the data which is there in a cloud storage using the data flows. You need to use the Azure Integration Runtime. Okay, you want to execute activities using cloud store and services. Example, you have some execute activities such as Databricks notebook you want to execute, or Spark code you want to submit on Azure HD Insight. In all these cases, we are going to use the Azure Integration Runtime. Okay, next. Copy data between cloud and on-premise stores. So here, self-hosted integration runtime, we are going to use to copy data between cloud and on-premise data store. You see, cloud and on-premise, or on-premise to cloud, vice versa, both will work. Okay, next. Copy data between on-premise data store. So from on-premise to on-premise, if you want to copy, you need to use the self-hosted integration runtime. Next, execute activities using the on-premise stores. You have some data which is there in on-premise. That data, if you want to transform, you are going to use the self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, next, Azure SSIS integration runtime you are going to use to execute the SSIS packages. Okay, see, into Azure to copy data within the cloud, or to transform data within the cloud. Self-hosted to copy data within on-premise, or to copy data from on-premise to cloud. And if you want to transform data in on-premise, Azure SSIS integration runtime, it's nothing but to execute SSIS packages. Okay, any other questions? I see one more question, Parmesh. Same as Azure IR, self and Azure SS can also be created region specific? No, it's not region specific. So because self-hosted, it's nothing but maintained by we. Okay, we need to select the region in which location, so we cannot change it. So cloud has capabilities to automatically select the server in a different regions based on where you are copying the data based on your activity. So this particular regional auto resolve option is available only for Azure IR. This particular option is not available for self and Azure SSIS. Clear, Pramesh?
Yeah, clear, Mandya. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions, friends, as of now? Fine. Now we'll see which integration runtime should I use. Now you see, we have a IR type here, public network and private network. So you want to execute a data flow activity. within the public network, meaning in the cloud. You want to move the data between the cloud. You want to execute some transformation activity in the cloud. For all these things, you need to use the Azure. Self-hosted you need to use if you want to copy within the cloud, or if you want to execute any transformation activity in the cloud, you can use. In the same way, if you want to move data within the private network, and if you want to execute any transformation code within the on-premise, so in all these cases you can go with the self-hosted. SSIS package execution, if you want to execute in public network or if you want to execute on private network, you can use the Azure SSIS IR. Okay, clear? Any questions as of now?
Sir,
Yeah.
if I want to move the data from on-premises to public network, like means private network to public network, then
Okay. Tell me,
which type of
somebody can answer, friends. What we are going to use, we already discussed. If I want to move data from private to public, it's nothing but on-premise to cloud. Which type of IR we are going to use? Anybody?
I'll use
self-hosted only.
Very good. So most of the people answer self-hosted integration runtime we need to use. Very good. Okay. Next. Any other questions? Okay. Now we are going to see integration runtime location. How this integration runtime location will be decided. So we already discussed about auto resolve integration runtime, but let me give you few more examples to understand clearly how this location will be decided. Okay. Fine. First, we need to understand the IR location can be different from the location of the data factory it belongs to. You have created a data factory in US, but integration runtime may not be there in your US. It may be there in a other regions. So that's why my first point, it says IR location can be different from the location of the data factory it belongs to. When you create a data factory, you are going to select in which region you want data factory, but your IR may not be there in the same region. It may or may not be. I'm not saying it may not be there always. So it may or may not be, but it's not mandatory that your IR will be there in same region where you have data factory. It may be different. Next, if you choose to use the auto resolve Azure IR in public network, which is the default, what happens is, okay, for copy activity, ADF will make a best effort to automatically detect your sync data store location. What is sync data store location? Your target, where you are copying this data. ADF will make a best effort. It will try, ADF, it will try best to identify where you are copying data. So my target is US, let's imagine. Okay, then use the IR in either the same region if available or the closest one in the same geography. What it is saying is, once ADF automatically detect your sync data store location, that is nothing but a US. Let's imagine US is my sync store location. Then IR, integration runtime, will be there in either the same region. It may be there in the same US. If available, if the IR is available in same region, it will take that particular IR. Otherwise, or the closest one in the same geography, in same US, maybe some other state, whatever IR is near to this particular sync data center, okay, sync data store, that particular IR will be used. Okay, don't confuse. Let me give you some examples so that you can understand. Let's say I'm copying data from I need to tell to some examples, right? So example, I'm copying from US to India, because most of you know India, right? So I'm copying from US to India. Now India is my sync. So in India, we know Chennai, we know Delhi, we know Mumbai, right? So we have different data centers in these places. Now you need to understand, in Chennai, okay, when I am copying data from US to Chennai data center, what happens is, first it will try to identify whether integration runtime is available in Chennai data center or not. If it is available, it will take that particular IR to copy data, because that is the closest integration runtime that it can use. So it will be much more faster if it is used the IR which is there in a Chennai data center. Now let's imagine you are trying to copy data from US to Chennai data center, but IR is not available in Chennai data center. What is the near to Chennai? Mumbai. So now in Mumbai data center, IR will be created. That IR will be used to copy data from US to Chennai. Now what happens is, as you are using the nearest IR, you can able to copy data much more faster compared to the creating IR in some other country and using it. Instead of that, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to see the nearest place where we can use the IR to copy data into the sync data store that is in Chennai. Okay, clear? Next, if the sync data stores region is not detectable, example, it is not able to identify Chennai, okay, then what it is going to do, IR in the data factory region as alternatively used. What happens is, so when our ADF is copying data into your sync, right? Maybe sync is your Chennai data center. Now ADF is not able to detect, okay, your target is Chennai due to some region. Now how it will decide IR? It will decide IR. So it cannot able to decide the IR in that case, right? In that case, what it is going to do is, it is going to create your IR in the same region where you have created Azure Data Factory. Okay, two cases, friends. One is, if your sync is detected, it will try to use the IR in same region. If it is not available in the same region, it will try to take the IR in the closest region. If the sync is not detectable, then IR will be taken from the same location where your Azure Data Factory is located. Okay, so let me give you few more examples to understand. For example, you have your data factory created in East US data center. When copy data to Azure blob, you are trying to copy data to Azure blob, which is there in a West US. Your data factory in East US, your sync is West US. If ADF successfully detected that blob is West US, if the ADF is detected that you are copying data into West US, copy activity is executed on IR. It's nothing but a server in West US. So it is going to use the server from the West US data center. If the region detection failed, if it is not able to identify, it failed to identify the region, then copy activity is executed on IR in East US. What is this East US? East US is the place where you have created data factory. You see data factory. Clear now? So your target is West US. If you are able to find the West US data center, then IR will be used from the same location. If this sync is not detectable, then IR will be used from the East US data center. Okay, next. When copy data to Salesforce, of which the region is not detectable, you are trying to copy data to the Salesforce and the region is not detectable, then copy activity is executed on IR in East US. Why East US? Because this is the place where you have created the Azure Data Factory. Okay, clear? Any questions, friends, here as of now? Fine, let me move on. Okay, determine which IR to use. So can you tell me, to copy data between two cloud data stores, what I need to use? Everybody needs to respond. Please respond, everybody.
Azure IR.
Okay, so we are going to use you see here, Azure Integration Runtime. Next, copy between a cloud data store and a data store in private. So what we are going to use?
Self-hosted.
Very good. Next, copy between two data stores in a private network. Then on-premise to on-premise.
SSI package.
Self-hosted.
Don't
Oh.
consider. Next, external transformation activity. External transformation activity is nothing but I want to execute Databricks notebook. I want to execute Azure HD inside. What I am going to use?
Azure Integration Runtime.
Good. Azure Integration Runtime. Next, data flow activity. Then
Azure IR.
very good. So Azure Integration Runtime we need to use. These are the things that you need to remember, friends. Okay, clear. Now this is the overview diagram that you need to remember. Okay, just let me show you. Here you see in this overview diagram, you will come to know. First thing you need to understand here, focus on this. It's an on-premise. Here you see whatever dotted lines we have, below that everything is on-premise. Above you have a cloud. You have a cloud. Now you see, whenever I am moving data from on-premise to cloud, see, source to destination, maybe cloud to on-premise or on-premise to cloud. In both the cases, which type of IR I'm using? You see, self-hosted integration runtime I'm using. Okay, it may be for data movement or compute activity dispatch. What it means? For executing any transformation code or to copy data. Okay, next. So I want to execute a SSIS packages within the cloud. See, in the cloud, if you want to execute a SSIS packages, we need to use Azure SSIS. I want to move data within the cloud. See, it's completely cloud. So what I'm going to use? I'm going to use the Azure Integration Runtime. Okay, I'm going to use a Azure Integration Runtime. Clear? Next. You need to understand. This is a cloud, friends. In a cloud, you have purchased your virtual network. It's nothing but you have purchased one virtual machine. Okay, this is completely your private again. So because this particular network you have purchased from the cloud, even though this network you purchased from the cloud, this is your own network. This will be your private network. Now you need to understand, whenever you are executing, okay, whenever you are executing SSIS packages, okay, for executing SSIS packages, whether it is on-premise or cloud, we have only one type of integration runtime. That is nothing but a Azure SSIS. So that's why we need to use a Azure SSIS if you want to execute even this SSIS packages in private network. Okay, see, you need, so all these things we have seen in a different view, that is on-premise cloud, but these things you need to look into this virtual network. This is a separate network. This is your own private network. Now within this private network, if you want to copy data from source to destination, again you need to use a self-hosted integration runtime. You may think this particular network is available in the cloud, why can't a Azure integration runtime? Because even though this network is in the cloud, but this is private network, it's completely purchased by you. You are owned this network. That's why whenever you are moving this data, you need to have a self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, next. So to execute SSIS packages, we know whether you are executing in cloud or in your private network, you need to use the SSIS IR. Okay, clear, or any doubts in this? Clear, friends?
Yeah, clear.
Okay, thank you, Parmesh.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all the slides which I have today. Any other questions before we move on? Let me stop.
When shall we expect these PPTs? Like,
Yeah,
you
so
going to
those things I will discuss. Let me stop the recording.